everyone, welcome to this, and I'm just going to do some thoughts. This isn't really a review because I haven't watched the whole DVD. I don't think I'm going to do a review of the DVD of the rise and fall of WCW. But after watching, like a lot of people, after watching the documentary portion, it's very, what happened type of thing. Let me preface this right away by saying that if you've watched a lot of my videos, it's very adamant that, or very clear, that I was a big fan of at least of Jim Crockett Promotions. However, pretty much well, I shouldn't say pretty much, but once WCW came into being, I wasn't as big of a fan, particularly after Flair left. After Flair left, there were guys there that I liked, like Vader. I'm a big fan of Vader. Sting. You know, they still had War Games. They had stuff that I liked, but it wasn't. I didn't follow it as much as I did because I just didn't like it as much. And once they brought in Hogan, it really didn't do anything for me. And really, even during the Monday Night Wars, there was maybe a year and a half where I really liked WCW before I was just like, ugh, you know. And not that I didn't watch it, but I did prefer WWF because people always get upset when I say E, but because they're like, there's a difference. There's no difference. Shut up. I was just not a big thing. I was not a big fan. So let me preface this by saying that. Watching the DVD, if you get the DVD, and I haven't watched the matches, I know what matches are on there. I'd have to watch the matches again and think about it, but I don't really think the matches are even good enough to really save this DVD. Because really, if you want, I think if you got the DVDs I'm about to mention, I think you would get a better understanding of the rise and fall of WCW. If you got the Ric Flair DVD with the documentary, which I guess would be the last Ric Flair DVD, if I remember right. I think that's the one with the documentary portion. If you got the Starrcade DVD, the Horseman DVD, Flair, Horseman, Starrcade, and I'm missing one. Oh, and the Monday Night Wars. Even the Monday Night Wars DVD. I think you would get a better understanding of the rise and fall of WCW. I say this because this DVD is only an hour and 40... documentary portion is an hour and 45 minutes long. Keep in mind that the gold standard that we hold all, you know, these type of DVDs to, which is the ECW DVD, Rise and Fall of ECW, was 3 hours long. So you're talking about a promotion in which you're talking, for the most part, about a 20-year span of stuff that you're giving almost half the time that you gave a company that was only around for about 9 years. See the problem right away. Now, with that said, so the first hour of this DVD, which is pretty much the Jim Crockett portion of the DVD, is pretty good. I think it's about the first 50 minutes, I guess, or something like that, is pretty good. And with all my biggest gripe with that part would just be them acting like, you know, Dusty never was a bad booker, which isn't exactly true. They kind of, you know, skip that part of it. But that portion of the DVD is really good. The next 45 minutes of the DVD is garbage, for the most part, in my opinion. It's almost as if, when I was watching this DVD, it was almost as if the WWE was, or whoever made this DVD, was too concerned of not burying WCW. I think if you had spent an hour and 45 minutes of just burying WCW, particularly from the time that it was WCW, and you just left the Jim Crockett Promotions part of it off, and you said that, okay, we're going to spend an hour and 45 minutes just talking about the point from where Ted Turner and TBS bought Crockett Promotions, and just go from there, I think that would be better than what we got. Because what we got was a lot of just stuff that, it was just like, why are they doing what they did? Okay, like, for example, I'm not going to go over the Jim Crockett stuff. I think they did a pretty good job with that, like I said, except for the fact of, they talk about what a great booker Dusty is, but then they don't talk about the fact that Dusty also was a horrible booker and helped to drive, as far as storylines and that far, drive business down. It was kind of interesting that kind of, you know, that history repeats itself, kind of, and this is kind of a stretch, but the fact that one of the things that, if you listen to DVD, that the Crockett's say why they didn't have the money was because they had money that was supposed to be on the books from advertising rights that they hadn't got the money from. It's kind of like, in some ways, not definitely through the examples, but that Paul Heyman had money out there that he thought he was going to get in with the rise and fall of WCW, or ECW, that never came. So I thought that was kind of an interesting parallel. But once you get to the actual WCW portion, you get to the point where the early parts of it, where they completely miss. They don't even talk about Ric Flair being fired and leaving for the WWF and all of that. Completely miss that. They do talk about the revolving guys running WCW and the revolving bookers and all of that sort of thing, and about the only big highlight of that is probably, as most people would think, would be the Bill Watts, because Bill Watts has always defended himself pretty adamantly about when he was in WCW and the fact that a lot of people can say what they want to about it. This is him, but he had turned at least the company around financially, even if the product wasn't as good as some people had wanted it to be. So there was that. But he's allowed to defend himself on there. So that's probably the only highlight of that. And then they go to the Eric Bischoff era and the Bill Shaw era. And at that point, it becomes kind of, wow. They talk about bringing in Hulk Hogan, for example. They bring in Hulk Hogan, and they basically, the WWE in a lot of ways protects Hogan on this part, because they talk about him coming in. They don't talk about him getting booed at all. They don't talk about the fact of any of the negativity or any of that stuff that came when Hogan came in. The fact that he brought all of his friends with him that were now going to be that were now going to be pushed above guys that had been in the company for a long time. They didn't talk about the fact that him and Sullivan, because Hogan had creative control, basically, we're just redoing old 80s Hogan storylines from the 80s. They didn't talk about any of that. It was basically Hogan came in, helped put the company officially on the map, and then you skip right to the NWO. And it's like, wow, where's all that Dungeon of Doom bullshit that happened? Where's all of that, where is all of that stuff that us that watched pro wrestling at the time had to wade through to get to? Where was all of that? Where was, and even before that, you could talk about, spin the deal, make the deal, spin the wheel, make the deal with the coal miner's glove match. There you go with that. I believe that's Bill Watts' fault, as much as I like Bill Watts. I think that was him. May not have been, but that was groovy. Let me tell you, that they skipped over all that and just went right into the Monday Night Wars part of it, which I found very odd, because it's like, dude, that's like a horrible, horrible part of WCW's history. Then they talk about that, and again, they just gloss over stuff. They don't talk about, they talk about the NWO, but they don't talk about the NWO getting too big. They don't talk, of course, no one, Hogan's not on the DVD, Bischoff's not on the DVD, Hall and Nash aren't on the DVD. Hall's on the DVD, but as a tape segment from 2002, same thing with Bischoff. So that was kind of like, Jesus, come on. Because Bischoff was scared it was going to be a burial of the DVD, and it's not a burial DVD. It's really not. I think, like I said, I think they were cautious of this not being a burial DVD, and I think it hurt the DVD. They don't talk about any of the, the younger guys being held back until near the end of the DVD, in which you just get Malenko and Jericho talking about that. And Big Show to a degree, except Big Show was, main eventing, and while he left because, he wanted to make more money, because he wanted to make what Hall and Nash were making, because he was, feuding with Hall and Nash, and he was, and he was main eventing with these guys, and he wanted to make them. They talked about the fact that, WCW had these guaranteed pay, and why that wasn't necessarily a good thing. They talked about that. They totally skipped over Sting and Hogan, They totally skipped over, you know, all of kind of the drama that was going on in WCW between Flair and Bischoff and kind of, you know, Hogan and Flair and all of that sort of just nonsense that was going on. That was kind of an undercurrent in WCW that probably you didn't need to talk about, but it would have probably helped. And stuff that they had talked about, you know, on previous DVDs. Let's see, what's some other stuff? They kind of gloss. They don't even talk about Bret Hart. They don't talk about that part of it, which is just another just indictment on WCW, on the fact that here they bring in Bret Hart, who legitimately should have been the hottest guy in pro wrestling, and just laid the biggest dud of all time. They do talk about the finger poke of doom. They do talk about Goldberg losing to Nash. They talk about all of that sort of stuff. They do a pretty good job of trying to bury Russo, which I kind of understand that there are a couple of guys. I think Ray is the only guy that really defends him by saying, you know, he at least did try to put over some of the young guys and did try to do some things different. But for the most part, they just pretty much bury Russo. They pretty much bury Jeff Jarrett, which was just like, why does that even need to be in there? You know, I would say the last two, you know, the whole time Russo's there, gets a pretty good section of the last 45 minutes. I'd say it gets almost about 10 minutes, and it's like, why is this on here for so long? You know, I mean, this should just be, they brought in Russo, he did a bunch of stupid crap, he tried to do the right thing but it was too late. They talk about Vince buying the company, which they're going to tell their version of. They're not going to really tell what the right version of it probably is. But if you're looking for like an in-depth kind of just, even I would say if you're just looking for just like the Cliff Notes version of the rise and fall of WCW, it's not even that. This fails on even that. This is just, I could not believe watching the last, I'd say pretty much the WCW portion of the DVD. It was just like, wow, what was that? What, you know, you guys could have, I mean, there are parts of that era that deserve to be buried. I think even the people that would say, you know, you shouldn't bury WCW would say, yes, there are portions that deserve to be buried and talked about at length and talked about how stupid and utterly crappy it was. And I think, you know, that one of the things that if you go back and you look at the AWA DVD, you look at the World Class Championship Wrestling DVD, you look at the ECW DVD, you look at those DVDs, there's always kind of a running storyline going through them, so to speak. There's a story to be told. You know, there's you know, with ECW it was the little engine that found out it couldn't. You know, the WCCW DVD was, you know, the story of the Von Erichs and the tragedy of the Von Erichs. The AWA DVD was very much, you know, kind of an indictment in some regards against Verne Gagne, but not really. But you got that kind of, you know, a guy that it wouldn't kind of change with the times, I guess would be the best element to kind of tell the story, so to speak. You didn't really have that with this DVD. You didn't have that, you know, especially when you got into, I would say, the 90s portion of it, where it was like, you had this great company, but there was a lot of underlying currents. There was like a cancer within the company that was eating away at the company that is not something you could see on the surface. That would have been a good story to tell throughout the DVD, and is a very good story to tell out DVD. Along with, you know, the rise of WCW and the fact that, you know, they did all these great things and they were the first, and they almost put Vince McMahon out of business. Not that, you know, WWE would probably ever say that, but maybe they would have. Maybe, you know, I mean, if I was the guy that, you know, kind of brought this DVD, I would have went to Vince and said, no, let's talk about this. This would show that, you know, you got your back put to the wall and you went with it and you won and you wound up, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, this company is not a threat to you anymore. Why not, you know, why not build it up as best you can in this DVD? Just to trash it down, because trust me, the last couple of years of WCW, it's easy to go and just bash the hell out of it. And I don't think anyone would really, you know, blame WWE for that. But I was pretty amazed with this DVD. This DVD is very wow. The documentary portion was just like wow. I was watching it, and a lot of people have talked about the Mike Graham stuff. Wow, this guy. I don't know if he just was talking to the camera and they just wound up using his stuff, and it just makes him sound just totally loony. Just wow. Just lots of it was pretty amazing because it just really was. It was almost just like this, like, oh, let's just kind of do, let's just kind of do this movie because we have to, and let's not care to get. I'm not gonna say not get the facts straight, but just hit on certain points we want to hit on. Like I said, to not even talk about Sting and Hogan. They didn't talk about Warrior Hogan. They didn't talk about, that's a really good indictment with what was one of the problems WCW had, was that they continually had to serve Hogan's ego. Hogan Warrior in WCW, that's all that was just them serving Hogan's ego. And, that could have probably been better than it was, and it wasn't. Hogan and Piper and all of these other things that was going on, and you didn't have that undercurrent of, the young talent being frustrated and not being able to advance up the card, where they open up the DVD with guys talking about the fact that one of the things that made them better, they felt, was that they were using all these young guys and all of that sort of thing. So there was all that too. So very strange DVD. I wouldn't recommend it. If you buy the DVD thinking you're going to get a good history lesson, you get a good hour history lesson. But the history lesson I think most people want to know, which would be the Monday night, the WCW portion of the top, from when Ted Turner took over to, the end of WCW, forget it. You're not going to get it. Go read Brian Alvarez's book. And I'm not even the biggest fan of Brian Alvarez's book, but go get that, because that's a much, much, much better thing there than this has ever been. So, or could have been. It's just amazing to me that hour and 45 minutes. I mean, come on. What was that? Anyways, I rambled on long enough. Just based on that, I would say don't get this DVD. Like I said, you could spend the same money, go get Brian Alvarez's book, the Death of WCW, I believe is the name of the book. I don't have it around here anywhere. I think it's in the other room. I think it's in the garage, actually. That would be a much better book to get than this thing, if you really were curious on it. But anyways, I just had to make this video because after watching it, I was like, wow, that was wow. Anyways, I'm out.